pleasure to introduce, all the way from Syracuse, Senator John Mannion. He's chair of the Senate Disabilities Committee and a great champion of them, and the sponsor of our day.
Thank you, Winnie. I think I heard some Syracusans out there. That was a little louder than we usually hear. Mostly people are just happy that it's not snowing as severely where they are as it is in Syracuse. But I want to thank Winnie and Gail, and I want to thank Dan for his words and everybody that's going to talk here. And of course, I'd like to thank my colleague, Senator John Liu. You won't find a greater champion for education, particularly in New York City, than Senator Liu, and he's been very helpful and a great mentor to me in my short time here in the New York State Senate. So today, these New York City school leaders and early education experts are joining me in calling on Governor Kathy Hochul to do the right thing for the kids with special needs in the state and their families, and immediately sign Senate Bill 6516A into law. This is my bill. This is the bill that I sponsored. And it's for kids that need it. Our kids are your kids. And one of those kids is my kid. My son Jack Mannion is 23 years old, and he has overcome so much. He grew up with a litany of atypical behaviors: delayed echolalia, toe walking, loud vocalizations, atypical hand gestures. But that kid got early intervention services from skilled and trained and certified professionals. And that boy is a man now. He is employed, he drives his own vehicle, he's a graduate of college, and I am proud of that man. It didn't come without strong advocacy, and it didn't come without the professionals that know what to do for these kids. I just had a conversation the other day with someone who talked about law enforcement training and working with people with IDD. And the simple words that were said in that conversation, and not by me, was, if you don't know, you just don't know. And it's so true. And it's so frustrating for me as a parent to see sometimes how individuals are interacted with, because just a little bit of knowledge would go so far. I heard the same thing a few days ago about people in the dentistry profession, and how we are encouraging dentists to go one more year and work through grant programs where they can make sure that they know how to best interact with people that have a little bit of an extra challenge, and that setting might be really beyond challenging for them. So this is my bill. I sponsored it. We need to save programs all over New York for children that utilize schools like this. Incredibly and horribly, we've lost more than 60 of these schools in recent years because of inadequate, unfair, inequitable, and unpredictable funding. The disruption that these closures cause for these kids and their families is beyond belief. In a world where we all need sameness, to throw such great disruption into the lives of these families and the children is really an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment. That's a word I wish I didn't have to use, but it's just the case. The loss of familiar and respected teachers, teaching assistants, teacher aides, physical and occupational therapists, speech therapists, highly specialized and highly trained professionals who those children have come to know and, more importantly, trust. Families may have to travel much further when they are moved to a new school, and they may not even find a program at all, as we just heard. It's totally unacceptable to me, and it's totally unacceptable to these families. We know that early childhood intervention has lifelong positive repercussions. From a bottom line perspective, teachers and aides have specialized training and certification. OTs and PTs and other highly specialized professionals support these students early in life. What will it do? It will save money over the long term because fewer supports are going to be necessary and needed as we go from childhood into adulthood. The evidence is clear. That's why we have to invest at an early age. What's really important to me is not just that it saves money for the state of New York. It's that it improves the lives of New Yorkers, regardless of what label we want to put on it. It goes without saying that these kids are as valuable and as loved and should be as respected as all children in this state, and state policy and state funding needs to reflect that. These kids are guaranteed under the law a free, appropriate public education in the least restricted environment. It is their right. The people that came before us fought to make sure that these students had that right. It's up to us to make sure that we live up to that promise as a society and as a government. Thank you. A sound education can only be achieved for these students if they have the proper supports and their schools are funded at the same rate as public schools. My legislation brings parity and fairness to how we fund schools that are known as 4410 schools and 853 schools. These are the schools that often serve the most complex cases. They were among the first to reopen in person during the pandemic. To attempt to administrate in one of these schools without having a predictability to the funding means you can't retain staff. You have to hope that the funding is going to be there. And myself, who worked in public education for 28 years, those public ed schools know the rules that they're playing by, or at least they have an idea of what rules they're playing by. So when they go into the summer and come back in the fall, they have a plan. Yes, they have to develop a budget, but they have a plan. If you do not know what's coming, you can't plan for it. You can't hold staff, and as was said earlier, we're losing teachers to these other schools. These are highly trained, highly specialized teachers who are drawn into these schools. They want to work in these schools, and we are driving them away. It is hard to turn down not just an increase in salary, but a predictability of employment for them as well. And that's why it's such a disservice to these kids. The bill we need the governor to sign permanently links funding to these schools, just to what we would refer to as standard schools and their funding. If education goes up in one area, as it did, we fought hard, Senator Lou and I fought hard to make sure that we are holding to our commitment to fully fund schools in this state. Well, it should be all schools. We can fix this problem once and for all. We can deliver certainty and peace of mind to the thousands of families across this state that need it, that deserve it. We need the governor to sign this bill, sign it immediately, so that families, schools, programs can begin planning and deploying the necessary resources to help these kids, to improve their lives and assure a better and dignified and rewarding and enriched future for them. Let's get this done, and we will not stop until it's done. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.
First, I just need to tell you that everyone in this room wants to hug you right now. And second, Senator Mannion pointed out two really important things about the bill. One, that it would give us 7% this year for an increase. And two, that it would provide predictable funding and put us as part of the budget process in the proper way, the way we've never been before. Next,